if reposted.
Zach Lupetin is the founder and one of the singers in what Wikipedia calls the best New Orleans funk, bluegrass, soul, pre-war blues American band in the history of the world. They've been touring the globe since 2010. Their latest album is It You, Is It Me? Zach also has a pretty cool podcast called The Show on the Road, where he talks to his fellow musicians about life on the road. Zach, let's start with this. The first song in your latest album is called Dreaming. Some of the first few lines. What if you get everything you wanted, then you thought, how did I get here? A lonely man up on the hill, suddenly stage fright on your big night as the curtain starts to rise. From your throat comes the silence, feels like violence out to kill. So this song is about revealing your soul every night in front of an audience. First of all, what's that like? And then obvious question is, what's it like to not do that because of a pandemic?
Well, the song actually transformed from a song about baseball, which we were just talking about before this. I'm a big baseball fan. Go Dodgers. Actually, I'm a diehard rare White Sox fan from Chicago first.
Wow.
We were back in the playoffs for the first time in 12 years, and it was brief and sad, as it usually is with the White Sox. But initially, that song was about the pressure of getting up there and trying to close a game, like a closer, like Kenley Jansen, right? And blowing it in front of the whole world, you know? And Liz and some of the people in the band were, liked the song, but were like, what if we made it a little more personal? Can we make it about us and make it about how performers get up there? And there's always that pressure to reveal your soul and to memorize everything perfectly. And those of us who've been performing our whole lives, I came up doing theater, and I was in Shakespeare shows in college, and I write plays and all that stuff. There's always that moment of truth when you step out under the brightest lights where you're like, I'm going to forget everything. I'm going to screw everything up, and I'm going to fall off the stage and never be heard from again. And so that was the moment where the song sort of revealed itself about my biggest fear, which is sort of getting up in front of an audience and forgetting how to sing, forgetting how to express yourself. And you see people when they get a little older, with older artists, where they start to forget everything they've ever written. And that's like kind of a terrifying thing for someone who's devoted themselves to words like me. And I love writing songs with a ton of words. And so that song was about revealing maybe my biggest fear, which is forgetting everything.
Wow. I can definitely relate to that stage, being on stage and not knowing what's going to come out. I heard, or I read an interview that you did, and you talked about New Orleans and New York, where you briefly lived. And you said that the music is more natural there and people are more about playing the music than the showmanship. Do you have any thoughts on like what that's about? Or is it because they're not trying to sell anything, or why do you think that?
About the music of New Orleans?
Yeah.
Well, I think music is such a part of their culture that it's an everyday, all day, an all night experience. Whereas a lot of other towns, even LA, it's still an event where you're creating music and it's at night. You go on a Friday and that's it, right? Whereas New Orleans, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every single bar in the city has an amazing band going. And I think sometimes there is a dark side to that where you can see the tiredness in people's eyes because they're busting their butt every night to get their music out there. And it's maybe not as special for people all the time. And I think there's something about really gearing up for that one special night of the week that you can perform. And I love New Orleans music, and it's filtered into everything we do with our brass section. But I think that we only take maybe the excitement part of it, the brash intensity of brass band music, and try to bring it into our own style. Because none of us are from the South. None of us are from that part of the country where this music really lives. And so I think we try to use it as a little droplet in our potion. That's why, you joke that Wikipedia thing has all these influences, but it's true. I mean, we have sort of everything in our music, which is confusing to some people.
Yeah, for people that haven't heard you guys yet, definitely check them out. But I've seen you guys live a couple times, and you guys, I feel like, embody that New Orleans, like you can't help but move. Like a second line is going down the street in the French Quarter, and you just start dancing with the people. And I think there is something that just draws people in. So I really like that.
Anybody that follows you or is a fan of yours knows that Dustbowl Revival is playing all over the country all of the time. It's weird to think that in this world, bands aren't doing that right now. So what's it been like for you, pandemic, not be traveling and playing? And the follow-up to that is, do you think music's going to be changed forever because of this break?
It's a blessing in disguise for a lot of road-weary bands who are used to being away 150 days a year like us. In that we can really recharge our batteries and write songs that have a little more of your home life and your peace in them. Whereas sometimes you're trying to fit in a song, in between sound checks and there's a hurriedness to those songs that don't allow it to really come together. And when you have 7 months on your own, you can really start to think deeper. I've had some songs that I've written over these last few months that are about moments in our fractured American history that I never thought I would dive into. And seeing the election coming so quickly, it's made me want to contribute to the journalistic interpretation of what's happening. Because I think musicians can be journalists in their own way. And, Bob Dylan and a lot of people in the 60s wrote protest songs or songs that were commenting on the racial divide. And we've forgotten how to do that in a way because we've been entertainers for so long. We don't want to offend anybody. And I think the time for that has passed. We're in a similar situation to the late 60s right now where everything is being turned over. All the critters and the nasty bits are crawling out, and we have to sing about it. I mean, we have to sing about it. Look, I miss playing for people live. That's something that is part of my soul at this point. Not playing any music festivals for the whole year. I mean, that is a very sad thing for a performer and a band that thrives on that energy. And I don't know if it's going to really come back until maybe 2022 for real. I think 2021 will be an interesting transition year where we're kind of easing back into it. But I think as we see, there's still more COVID surges happening now. So there's no indication that everything's going to be better by the new year.
So I guess a little bit away from that, I saw that you, prior to starting the band, you were a writer and you were in film school. And I did a little bit of research on your YouTube, and I noticed you are not credited for having directed any of your music videos. Did you dabble while you were doing that? Because I think they're all really interesting and cool, but I'm curious why you departed from that.
That is a great point. I should have directed some of our music videos. I think a lot of times I see myself more as a writer than a director. So there's ideas that I put into a lot of our videos. For example, there's a video we did for our song, If You Could See Me Now, with two young martial arts practitioners, a young girl and a professional stunt woman. And it's sort of her looking into the future and seeing her badass self. That was something that me and our trombone player, Ulf, had sort of worked on for a long time. I don't know if it really turned out as well as we would have liked, but when you work in a collective environment like Dustbowl Revival, my ideas are only one part of the pie. So you're right in that I should probably be a little more assertive in my filmmaking style, but I don't really have a filmmaking style. I'm a writer again. So I would like to start making some more experimental videos. I've had fun just sort of cutting things together. Like I did a little teaser for our song Mirror that's on our YouTube with footage of nature and all this stuff together. And that was like a really great experiment of just bringing different footage together to really tell the story of this song. And I should do more of that.
That was sort of my follow-up question is there's 6 members of the band now. There's been more in previous iterations. How is that collaboration process like? Do you have to sort of sacrifice your ideas to get everybody's ideas in? Obviously, it's gone well because you guys have been together for 10 years.
It's a double-edged sword. I think in 2015 or so, we decided to be an official partnership, partially because people had been involved for many, many years, and it was still just my project with a crew of fun cast characters, and I wanted to be able to really include them as, stakeholders in this business, because really it is a small business, what we do here. I mean, people in the government don't believe that musicians or songwriters are business people. They think they're just sort of artists who have their heads in the clouds, and we have to do everything now. We have to be accountants and designers and engineers and travel agents. I mean, that's a lot of what I do, is booking hotels, booking flights, figuring out where we're going and how we're going to get there. And, that is not appreciated because it's all behind the scenes and you only see us dressed up and playing an hour of music. But having everyone be involved in the business part was important. And there's people in the band who are very well educated musically. Matt, our trumpet player, has a master's degree in music theory, so he's able to bring things that I would never dream to think, I would never dream of bringing, chords and combinations of sounds that make these songs lift up. And I will often bring a skeleton of a song, chords, lyrics, a melody, and then the song will be constructed like a big ship with everyone together, which is hard. It takes longer to make music like that. And I don't like how long it takes personally, but the songs are huge. Like you can hear on our new record, they're very complex, and that's really a beautiful thing.
Okay, Suede Home 4, the big virtual concert coming up next weekend. You guys are putting it on the 29th and 30th. Give us a little scoop of what people could expect and why they should go to Suede Home 4.
Yeah, our Suede Home Fests have been going since lockdown in April, really. We came home from our record release tour pretty bummed out, obviously, to not be able to share the music that we'd worked so hard to create. And me and our manager and some people had the idea of doing a virtual music fest where we could bring a lot of the artists that we love that normally we would only see at music festivals and put them all together in the virtual sphere. And we've done, 70 different bands. I mean, from 3-4 different countries. I mean, it's been a really cool way of gathering talent together in one place and turning on people to artists that deserve to be seen. And that's the loss of real music festivals, is that the only time someone would discover a band like us that doesn't fit into any one genre sometimes is at, like a Hardly Strictly Bluegrass, like in San Francisco. So many people discovered us in the Bay Area and beyond from that, and Outside Lands many years ago. And we've played different festivals like Bristol Rhythm and Roots, which is in Virginia. And like that has expanded our fan base and our reach on the entire Southeast part of the country, because people are so devoted to discovering new music at these places. So we try to do the same thing with Suede Home. And October 29th and 30th, we have a really cool lineup with some old, legends like Tim O'Brien and David Bromberg. David Bromberg was making music with Dylan in the 60s, and Greenwich Village. I mean, these guys have been around, and I was able to have him on my podcast also, a couple of weeks ago, which was really fun. And then we have some young artists like Silvana Estrada, who's from Mexico City, who's now blowing up down there, but people may not know her here yet. And I love Spanish language music a lot. I lived in Spain for a bit and go to Mexico every year. So trying to bring people music they would never discover otherwise. That's sort of what Sway at Home is about.
Sway at Home 4, as Zach mentioned, coming up 29th, 30th. For more information, of course, you can go to dustbowlrevival.com. Zach Lupetin, once again, the best New Orleans funk, bluegrass, soul, pre-war blues American band, according to Wikipedia, in the universe. Dust Bowl Revival, certainly one of my favorite bands of all time. Zach, thank you for a couple of minutes today.
Thank you for having me on.